Hello, Annihilation Nation. I hope you all have had a lovely day today. Got a fun match for you guys today. This is Tier 3, Week 1. It's going to be Eclipse versus Odyssey KRATOS. I'm Throne Pillow, and with me in the other caster slot is Alex Corner. Say hello.
Howdy, howdy.
And on production, we have Space. Thank you very much. And we will be getting started with this match in just a moment. All right, welcome back. We've got confirmation from both teams. They're good to go. It looks like the bans here are pretty interesting. We're starting off with initial ban of Malga from Eclipse with the follow-up cat ban from KRATOS. Uh, my initial thought, because I don't know much about these teams composition-wise, is possibly some sort of ball or diva variation of Cat Bastion from Eclipse. Just wanted to keep that kind of secured. And then KRATOS just saying, no, we won't have any of that. We're not dealing with Cat Bastion. We just want to play the video game the way it was before.
And, truth be told, I gotta say hallelujah to KRATOS. Cat Bastion, I am so sick of watching that. So, they already got one fan here. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. If this match does go on, however, there's only so many times you can ban the variation of Cat or ban the Bastion. So, we could be able to see it if it goes to him any longer than it should.
Right, 100%. And we're about to get started on this first point. Very interesting point to start with, I feel like. A night market here, or not night market, excuse me, garden. A lot of open space. Dojo definitely going to be a very important area to try and get some control of here.
Absolutely. Looking at these bans and just in general, as we see the team compositions come up now, we do see that Ramatra going on the side of KRATOS with standard break, Juno variation. So you got a more brawly side, but on the opposite side, like you were saying, a lot of space to be covered, and Eclipse is going with a more conventional dive composition. So how do you reckon these two are going to go at each other?
I think the main thing is just going to be where they're choosing to take these engagements. Notably, we have the Symmetra on both sides. Actually, we see E-Proxy swapping over, and an early drop off the map from knowing that's not going to be good for Eclipse, because they're going to have to just back up.
Yeah, Nexus, of course, finding Breezy there, but like you said, with the Lucio jumping off into the digital water there, it's going to slow you down, have to reset. So that's going to be an easy point grab for KRATOS. And as a Lucio player, I get it. I would have gone for that rollout too, but with time comes practice.
Right, 100%. That does just give the early cap over to the side of KRATOS, and that's going to make it awkward with that sim. They're going to really be able to bunker that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we see the setup for the side of Eclipse, of course, you see the Winston going, but for the most part, KRATOS can really hunker down on this backside of point, going forward to White Room. Their comp's really good for that, and of course, Nexus finds the Tracer poking and prodding into it.
Right, really good start. Still trying to make something happen here. Maybe look for that trade. Cool Chris falling dangerously though, but managing to sustain.
Yeah, absolutely. The sustain good. Winston out, and now that's going to be the rest of Eclipse, of course, falling down. And you see KRATOS trying to hit the engage, trying to find any more targets here, and they do find two here. Going to be the Lucio and Sojourn going down. Will they get the Winston? No. So a regroup coming in for Eclipse here.
Right, and looking at the ults here, we see Nexus already ready with this overclock, having built it just so quickly. Breezy coming up to a close as well, but it's definitely going to be early advantage towards KRATOS. They're going to have to find some way to get around this if you're Eclipse.
Yeah, I would be surprised if, Nexus doesn't just rip this early. There is no ults on the side of Eclipse. That's going to save them from it. However, Breezy finding Dexter Morgan, and here comes the OC like we were talking about. Damage right now pumped into the Winston. However, Cool Chris does find Epoxy. Nexus getting onto Pluto here, and Annihilation pop. Maybe you want to save that, but Cool Chris is going to clean it up with the rest of the team. So right now, KRATOS in a demanding lead.
Yeah, I definitely understand where they're coming from with that Annihilation, right? We're so close to getting the check. If we can just stall their touches, we just get point here.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about these ults coming up. You have the Kitsune Rush, you have the beat, probably mid-game here, and Breezy going for the OC, going to wrap around, does not get anything here.
Ran over.
Yeah, and the Kitsune Rush is closer to the backside, so not able to really use that too much. Winston on the side of Eclipse going down. Pluto's going to be the last one to touch with Epoxy. And, that's all she wrote over here in Gardens.
Definitely an unfortunate start that just kind of snowballed a little bit. So it seemed like there was just a bit of a struggle to get them to come outside, right? The main struggle against that comp would be dealing with that bunker and breaking through it, and this Winston comp is just going to struggle a little bit into getting that done.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said before, you said before that you can bunker down quite nicely, but as we head on to control center, not too many areas you can really bunker down on, but also on that side, running this Winston's going to be a bit harder. You see the switch over to the Orisa, so maybe you can get a bit more done, but the Zen is coming out, it looks like. Unless we're getting jinxed. No.
It looks like they swapped back over to the Kiriko. But we're seeing that swap over to the Orisa, which I do definitely agree with. Winston definitely going to struggle on this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, ECLIPSE controlling Sanctuary. It's going to be a battle of whose hit scan can get their work done here. You see on the side of KRATOS setting up on height. And you see the rotation coming in over here from ECLIPSE, trying to find the Juno and Sojourn outside, not going to get... So each team making rotations, however, nothing quite getting picked off.
You see Epoxy coming in on the flank here, getting Patty Cake down dangerously low, finds the pick. That's going to be a good opening pick for them. That Juno, a lot of the sustain for this comp.
Yeah, a lot of sustain. However, we do got to mention that KRATOS did get this point flip right now. So they are getting a little bit of percentage. You see the re-engage coming in before the flip is. However, this break has a lot of weight on their shoulders, but Nexium making sure to get no link, and we're going to go to a pause.
Not sure what this pause is for. We'll get that answer in just a bit. But right now, we can see this point already a lot closer than the last one. Just a lot more of a back and forth. Finding it difficult to even capture the point in the first place. KRATOS eventually getting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting point progress and point pressure. That was going to help KRATOS. Okay, looks like we got a DC from Pluto. But yeah, we also got to talk about these teams making rotations without losing anybody, You saw KRATOS starting at the high ground, ECLIPSE making that rotation over to the height, not losing anybody. And, while they did lose no link here, they still have Pluto. So we might be heading into the game.
Right, 100%. I think it was interesting. They did choose to give up on getting that point cap in order to clear that high ground and get eProxy set up for that fight, which did work out relatively well for them.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out well for them, but, I mean, for how much longer, as soon as we go from an unpause, just a few seconds later, you lose your Orisa, you lose Epoxy, and right now, the point just cleaning up the rest of Breezy, so not too much coming up on alt tanks, but what are you looking for here?
I think a big thing that I'd be trying to find here is maybe some sort of pulse bomb kill, ideally on the brig coming up on that rally.
Absolutely, and you see the Reaper teleporting in and getting actually super pressured here on the side. They do get it, so right now KRATOS down one, Pluto standing strong. However, Chris takes out Breezy, Soldier 76 on the side.
100%. Oh, Chris a little farther away from the fight than he would have liked. Not really able to follow up on this kill as much. But we see Nexus get another one.
Yeah, they do get a next one, and, I apologize. Fallen over the rest of the teams, but we do have the ults coming up, and right now, you don't have that beat, but you do have the Kitsune Rush. However, Dexter Morgan on the side of KRATOS does have that rally to try to prevent it. So what are you looking for in these ult combinations, as this is going to be probably the last fight if KRATOS win it?
Right, that's what I was about to say. Looking for that early period. Really to try to run over the enemy. We see the Ramattra fall dangerously low.
Oh, and Nexus, I think it's a collateral followed by a Reaper Death Blossom. Nexus putting 4 on the wall, and, that's looking like it. Control Center going over KRATOS, and that's Li Zhang also.
Yeah, pretty strong start from KRATOS, really controlling these points and just showing that they have a lot more point presence. ECLIPSE it seems like we're just kind of getting forced into a box. Both of those points, not really able to get any sort of angles out or get any advantage in those fights.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a beautiful collat if you're watching me play the game by Nexus. Just absolutely. But in fairness for Eclipse, first point looked a bit rough, but you know the second point when you went over to that Orisa, you know you got your Tracer in play. You did get some kills there, and it was looking a bit more convincing.
100%. That last fight, especially with all of the ult dumps, it could have gone either way. If you didn't get that collat rail shot, their Ramatra went down. They were probably winning that fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, unfortunate to see, but definitely still winnable on the side of Eclipse. It's just going to take a little more push on that part. All right, welcome back. We've got a good announcement for map 2. It's going to be Blizzard World. Is Eclipse's map pick with the initial ban of Ramatra. Uh,
I'm not a fan of this ban. I'm gonna be honest.
I do
Ramatra, go ahead.
I do think it's interesting. It could be some sort of protect ban for whatever composition they're looking to play. We saw them on the Winston composition last time. Maybe they were worried about that getting banned out.
On the opposite side, however, gotta ask you about the cast ban coming out for Kratos. What do you think about that?
I think that's interesting for the same reason, right? We see them banning a tank, could be trying to protect ban that Winston. Keeping cast banned when you have a decent chance of the enemy playing dive is risky in my eyes.
Yeah, and I was gonna make the prediction that they're gonna run the Cat Bastion, and that's exactly what we see over here on Kratos' lineup. Of course, you have the Malga Tracer, Bastion, Cat, Ana. So
Right,
there it is, folks.
Well, that traditional Cat Bastion comp. We see no Cat Bastion on the side of Eclipse, going instead for a Mizuki on a backline with this Sigma.
Yeah, we've been seeing a bit of this Mizuki backline. Normally it's paired with the Kiriko, so I'm going to be really interested to see how the Ana plays with this composition. Maybe it's just a comfort pick for No Link here.
Right, that could be it. I think it's interesting that Ana definitely going to be isolated, similar to the traditional Cat Bastion comp, with how aggressive Mizuki wants to be positioned.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, when you're playing this Cat Bastion comp, you're normally looking for that Ana. She doesn't have the mobility to really get on top of it, but she's playing all the way back. And here it comes. Here's the Cat Bastion. It finds Breezy. Will it find another one here?
Chipmunk falling low, but does not get picked. And a nice sleep from No Link.
Yeah, that was a beautiful sleep. However, the Cat Bastion's still attached to each other because for some reason the devs decided let's not have a cooldown on that. But a beautiful Link coming out here for the side of Pluto, gets rid of the Bastion, so the Cat kind of standing around. A beautiful anti goes onto the Malga, so trades are coming in back and forth. However, right now in favor of Kratos here. Epoxy Breezy trying to put their team back on this map.
Right, and that is going to be a first point for Kratos. Really solid job, really just oppressive Cat Bastion, and not a really quick response, unfortunately, from the side of Eclipse. They did get that response, right? We see that Mizuki looking for the chain there. It was just a little too little too late.
Yeah, but the problem is, you know, the Cat Bastion can be anywhere. Talking about anywhere, if you drop the Bastion, you're engaged, not to be so slick. But there's a lot of things you can respond to the Cat Bastion here. However, I don't think Mizuki's going to tie up on that. Just how limited that range of the chain is.
100%. Plus, Mizuki himself, a very quick target. And we see that Bastion engage onto the Emery right here. Does get taken down. And another nice response from Pluto. It seems like Pluto's really trying to hunt out this Cat Bastion.
Yeah, absolutely. Pluto coming up big, you know. Attaching the chain onto the Bastion, getting the kill for the first time, and with, you know, as soon as you kill that Cat, that Bastion is just a sitting target. It, like the Ana, doesn't have any mobility to really go anywhere. So as soon as you get the Cat, just follow up on that Bastion, you practically won the fight.
Right, we see the Nano coming up here on the side of Kratos. Definitely going to be a dangerous engage. Gotta be worried about it.
Yeah, and you also gotta be worried about this Bastion, you know. As soon as he gets that artillery perk, he also gets a lot of health on top of that. So his survivability is just gonna keep increasing as this point goes on. And like you said, we do have ults, and here comes the Nano running it onto the Malga. So normally you want to throw that onto the Bastion just to output the damage. So far, the Malga of UFO not getting too much value. Isolating himself, jumps down. 3 people look at him, and he does go down. The artillery popped, however. Nothing to get out of it.
Seems like that may have been a bit of a missed decision there. Because UFO just not really able to find anything into that Sigma, able to just block all of that damage while the Nano is active. And then just not able to sustain long enough. And now we see 5 ults on the side of Eclipse.
Yeah, and you know, the big one, the big combo you got to look out for on the side of Eclipse right now. Breezy, of course, with the form and the nano coming up, and they do have the... No Link doesn't have the movement speed yet, so maybe building up to that, get the perk here. But talking about which, here comes the Bastion engage. Good does find No Link, is hunting the Mizuki down. However, Cat goes down, but Breezy on the side of Eclipse also going down. So right now it is just cleanup work for Kratos, as the cart still has a bit of a ways to go, so we might see another fight coming in here for Eclipse.
Right, I do think that you get one more, and it's going to be a fight where they have that speed boosted nano Emre, but they really got to go early on this.
Yeah, absolutely. You see the Sigma stepping up, the Pulse Bomb going wide for Proper, so you can see that's an NA Proper. Right now, damage
does not quite connect.
Doesn't, but Aproxy does get the Bastion, and Breezy with the form does get the Cat as well. So while popping 3 ults, only finding 3 targets there.
Right, you'd want a little bit more with that. Breezy just not quite finding anybody in his LOS. Really nice job kiting from the majority of Kratos there.
Yeah, absolutely, but looking at these ults, you have Cage and not a lot to respond to. Of course, you can throw that Sanctuary in, but if everyone's inside the Sanctuary, you're not going to get the value of the eating that he does have. Talking about which, you see the Bastion engage coming in, Cat going down, Breezy finding the target, Breezy finding 2 here on for the Eclipse, and that's gonna
really big kills from Breezy.
Yeah, absolutely big kills from it. Proxy getting Proper, and of course that's gonna throw Kratos back. You know, UFO has been sitting on this cage for quite some time, enough time in fact for both the Bastion and Cat to rebuild their ult, or no, Bastion Ana, my bad, to rebuild their ult. So this is going to be an interesting fight.
100%. I think it's something that they may have been waiting on, but that does mean that they're burning a lot of time here. Now under a minute. You see the Bastion engage here. Looking at No Link, gets him very low, not finding it yet.
Yeah, not finding it quite yet. And talking about which, Eclipse coming up with these big kills, you know, Chipmunk finding 2, especially onto the Malga here. Finding the Cat, Sebastian right now isolated, and it's just a matter of time before the rest of the Eclipse hunts him down. But at this point, I would love to see UFO just try to get one with this cage and just burn it right now, because you've been sitting on this since Overwatch 1 at this point.
Right, you've been sitting on this thing for a while, and it's been definitely a sort of a handicap not having that tank ult being used, because now we see Chipmunk also having his ult back again after already using it.
Yeah, and when you see Proper stepping forward, getting that isolation. Here comes the cage, it's good for 1. And the Sanctuary actually really good, cutting that in half. Proxy getting... Sorry, my bad. Proxy getting the Bastion here, and then the form out. No Link also looking for trouble. However, Eclipse, all 5 going down. That's a fight win for Kratos, and we're on lock at point 3 here.
Right, and we saw a lot of ults come out from Eclipse there. That's 4 ults used and still losing that fight. We see a couple swaps here over to Zen and Soldier, really just trying to burn down that Cat Bastion.
Yeah, not only does it help with the Cat Bastion, but of course the Mouse is just a sitting wall of meat here. Talking about which, a Proxy having that Tracer at 1v1 with Proper, winning that fight. So right now, Eclipse up in their defense, 58 seconds to go.
Alright, we see the Manga pick early, finding himself just a little bit out in the open, not really finding any place to run on. And that's just going to be a quick pick and a quick, easy fight for Eclipse.
Yeah, as soon as we lost that Tracer, you probably should have disengaged here, but let's talk about this Cat Bastion. It's been a staple for the composition of Kratos. It's a bit more difficult to pull off in this enclosed area of third point here.
100%. But we see the swap from Rick over to Sigma, and I think that's a really interesting decision here. With the Zen, with the Soldier, really just being able to sustain a little bit more is going to be really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. However, with that explosive perk, the Bastion finds Zen. However, the Eclipse up 4 players now, clock ticking down, and I think with those picks, that's all she wrote. Proper, of course, gonna proc the overtime. That's pretty much all she wrote over here.
A solid 3rd-point push, but not getting to the end. Definitely still winnable for KRATOS.
Yeah, still winnable for KRATOS. You know, second point, that's a pain to attack. Really defensive favored there. However, we got to give it to Eclipse. They came alive in that second point. That's where the defense stood out. You know, their players coming alive. Breezy on that hit scan really showed up when it mattered. However, my main concern for Eclipse, you know, they went over to that Ana Zen backline. That is really vulnerable to exactly what this Cat Bastion does, but we'll see what KRATOS rolls out on here.
100%. That Ana Zen would be very good at bullying that Maga they were running, but all it takes is one swap, and now your backline is in a really terrible position.
Yeah, talking about which Cat Bastion on both sides. So chat, I'm glad that we had at least one map where we didn't have to see this composition. However, just a bit of a different look on the side of the tanks. Of course, you have Chipmunk going over to the Winston, and UFO on the side of KRATOS going over to D.Va. So how do you want to break that down?
Right, 100%. The big thing in my mind is it's just going to be a contention for who can support their Cat Bastion the most in this fight. And that definitely goes to Rick for me on that D.Va.
Yeah, absolutely. We see 2 teams setting up right now. Cat Bastion right now, when you're facing another Cat Bastion, it's really about who goes second, you know, or who can find this kill onto the Cat, and it looks like that's going to favor KRATOS. And, you know, like you were talking about with the D.Va, you see as soon as that engage came up, the defense matrix came out, and that saved their Cat Bastion. And the rest of the Eclipse are going to have to respect the space that Cat Bastion holds.
100%.
Yeah, we do see some switch-ups coming out, though. Deciding the Cat Bastion not for them. Eclipse going back on to the Emery and switching Pluto over to the Baptiste. So a bit of an interesting look, especially if you want to run this Winston, who is setting up forward.
Right, Curie, that's not a backline we see too often.
No, and I mean, this might be a reason why you see Pluto immediately missing that immortality field and getting exploded. Wanted to support the Winston on his engage up, but you know, this Cat Bastion, there's a reason it's so oppressive, you know.
Right, 100%. It's just so much damage. That Winston bubble might as well just not even exist.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and while the Cat is gone, it's not going to stay gone for a while. This is one of the fastest characters that we've probably ever seen in Overwatch, you know.
Right.
So we see this Cat Bastion, and you know, the Winston goes in, tries to capitalize the fact that there isn't a Cat Bastion. However, swings the corner, and 2 are already dead on the side of KRATOS, following the rest of them. So, what are you doing if you're Eclipse?
Well, we see the swap over to the D.Va and Juno, interestingly enough. I do agree that a swap onto something outside of the Baptiste was probably the right idea. I don't know if Juno is quite the pick. I think Ana would probably serve you a lot better here.
Yeah, maybe not, but maybe they want to just get this rotation to safer ground, you know, try to get those sight lines away from the Cat Bastion here, and you see that's exactly what happens. Pluto does find the kill on the Sexy Boy here, so right now Eclipse in the driver's seat ahead. However, Proper finds Breezy. An ultimate was used, but that was just the survivability for the Bastion. Here comes the Kitsune Rush on the side of KRATOS here, looking to capitalize it, and Proxy gets the Bastion here, so right now, could go either way right now in favor of KRATOS, as the rest of the team of Eclipse are falling short here.
We saw right at the end there that pulse bomb get eaten by Rick from Eproxy. That's definitely not something you'd want to be using in that situation. Could possibly just be waiting for a next fight.
Yeah, but next fight could be last fight right now. 45 seconds left on the bank for Eclipse, and the closest ult you have is a Kiriko at 92%, but with all those swaps coming in, you're kind of ultless here.
Right, 100%. Just trying to find that answer really put you in an awkward situation here, and we see the Juno go down early. That's not what you want to see if you're Eclipse.
No, yeah, like you're saying, that awkward situation, and it's exactly what that Juno was. You know, could it go back into that room? If the Cat Bastion was right there, could it go forward to the D.Va? But here comes the Kitsuna Rush when No Link does find 3 players here with the assist. Bomb is out. They find the baby D.Va before it can remix, and it looks like Eclipse is back in this.
Right, really nice fight there. Really good answers. Just managing, Breezy just managing to take out Proper there on Archway, and then the whole team running it down with Kitsune as soon as they had that man advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you did build some ults. You know, got Breezy's Tact Visor, and you have Bomb here, so D.Va can play a little more up front than she normally wants to. On the side of Kratos, though, the only ult they have is this Cat, with Bastion coming up close on 72%.
100%. And you can see they're looking to get set up here, possibly go in. We see Breezy fall especially low, and a nice pick from Dexter.
Yeah, great picks, but, you know, Pluto kind of overextended there, drops health low down, has to have Chipmunk come up, defense Matrix, use a lot of that. So right now, the rest of Kratos standing strong on their defense, Eclipse having to regroup.
Right. And we see the Cat set up behind with Dandelion.
Yeah, and I don't think a ping was out because Breezy just kind of walked in forward without seeing anything. However, Proper is traded out. Pulse Bomb does hit the tank. No D-Mech here, so no D.Va on the side of Kratos.
Right, that's gonna be a big pick there.
Yeah, and you know, without this D.Va right now, you can't support the Bastion as much as you want, and this D.Va is really vulnerable. However, if you're finding these kills, here it is. Breezy, of course, finding Sexy Boy Proper. Chipmunk are gonna go after the Bastion. If they can find this pick onto this baby D.Va, I'd say that's huge and might win them just second point in general, but you gotta push the card.
Seems we get the remake there from Rick. It's going to be a really big, really important. We can't have you saying Baby Diva for too much longer. We need that support.
Here comes the... Ooh, I was about to say, Defense Matrix eating up all that Visor, and then you throw a rush onto them, just deleting it. Proper finding Pluto here. There is 19 seconds left, and right now, Kratos is looking all heads here.
Still got some.
Really nice DM usage, saving that Bastion Bandaway when they fall especially low. Really nice work, and now we're just looking to get those final stops on any touches, using Diva Bomb to just zone around that point.
Yeah, that was a beautiful blink by Poxy here, getting that OC, but oh, 2 already falling on the side of Eclipse Gaming, so right now it's looking disastrous, and unfortunately Chipmunk not getting it. So Kratos is gonna take Blizzworld.
Right, that's a nice 2-0 lead for Kratos. If you're Eclipse, you really gotta try and find what the answer is here, because this is, you've already used that Cat Bastion ban. Or actually, was that Kratos that banned it?
That was Kratos actually. So Cat Bastion, you know, that's still in Eclipse pool to ban out.
Right, you definitely want to consider that then, because that was the biggest problem you had here. Just not really able to get any engages, get any space, because anytime you separate, you just get exploded.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we're back. We see the 2-0 score for Kratos right now. We see the follow-up map selection from Eclipse going to New Queen Street, banning that Bastion like we predicted. Definitely was an issue for them last game. Yeah, and we see the Kiri ban as the follow-up from Kratos, which I think makes a decent bit of sense, right? You always useful to have that Kiri ban out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. We've also seen Kratos, run the Warp Raleigh comp, wanting that Brig Juno. So I don't hate it. They've definitely showed the flash in the pan that they have the other support lines down.
Right, 100%. We see definitely that they have a bit more of a plan. Catsman, we were talking about it earlier. We didn't quite understand it. With them going cat, having that high noon out of the picture definitely makes a lot more sense. Definitely taking time to consider these bans a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like you're saying, we see the Bastion ban from the side of Eclipse. Makes sense. That round quite rough, and it does save you with another ban for the cat. So, say if Eclipse do win this next map, they don't have to deal with it for another one, you know? So maybe there's a bit more of a strategy in the bans for Eclipse than we did see.
Right, 100%. We see something interesting here. We see Junker Queen comp with that Juno Brig. So
Yep.
like we were talking about, that brawl with the Juno Brig, but we see a very aggressive comp on the side of Eclipse with the Winston, Genji, Sombra, Wu Yang, Juno backline.
Yeah, the comp on the side of Kratos, you know, wants to rush down anybody, really. The question comes in, who on Eclipse are you going to run down? Maybe it's the Wu Yang overextend, maybe it's the Juno, but they're still very slippery of a character.
Right, 100%. Those movement nerfs did come into effect, but they're still very solid at escaping. Especially with that sub roll, right? Getting that healing started as soon as they start moving. It's going to make it very hard to get a pick on them.
Yeah, and we might be here until either the Sombra finds a great pick, or they decide to burn down the Queen here, because both of these, you know, as soon as the Winston jumps in, Eclipse can activate all its healing with the rally and whatnot. But we do see Proper catching Breezy off guard. But like I was saying, Eclipse does have that escapability that is, and they do find the tank, so arguably a much better trade for the Eclipse, you know, losing only a DPS, but on the side of Kratos losing that tank.
Right, 100%. We see them starting to push that robot, just kind of sitting here on this choke.
Yeah, absolutely. That choke is coming in with that Wu Yang. You know, you can kind of force them back a little, keep that sustain on the Winston a little longer here. But we're going to have to go to this long angle unless the Queen wants to engage on top of this spot. Not finding anything. The shield does cut off most of the support. Nexus does find no link. However, again, Cool Chris overextended and killed along with Proper here.
Right now, really nice job punishing that engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked kind of disjointed by Kratos. You know, tank going one way, and you saw Nexus, and I believe it was Sexy Boy here, going another. So.
Right. Just need to find that sweet spot where they're all aligned. Really, just get that engagement timing right.
Yeah, talking about engagement and timing, they do not engage fast enough to prevent the checkpoint. So right now, Eclipse does have that forward spawns here. Primal Rage coming out for Chipmunk here. Seeing if we can get any value here. Proper does find no link. So right now, it is in favor of Kratos. Blade coming out. Proper looking for it. Breezy does find Sexy Boy. Nexus finding a proxy here. So right now, trades can go back and forth, but they, in the end of the day, are in favor of Kratos.
Right, really close fight there. We saw a good chunk of some ults used. We saw the Primal, we saw the Blade from Proper, but we still have a pretty solid ult bank with pretty much 4 ults on both sides. So definitely going to be interesting to see how we approach this next fight.
Yeah, and this fight needs to be approached kind of skillfully if you're inside of Eclipse. You know, you have that Rampage by Cool Chris, you know, getting that anti-heal, nothing to cleanse it with. And it truly, that's going to be a big ult that you got to watch for here.
Right, and we see the EMP ready as well. Again, no Kiri, not going to be able to do anything about it.
No, and here comes the OC. Nexus already finding one, looking to add to the highlight reel, trying to find another one. Sexy Boy popping a really late orbital.
Yeah, that's going to hurt their ult economy a bit.
Yeah, that's going to hurt quite a bit, especially now Eclipse coming in with a full bank. You know, you have the Blade, you have the EMP, and the Wu Yang, and the orbital. So if you're Eclipse, you have plenty of ult bank and space really to work with.
Right, and we see maybe just looking to get a setup for this engagement, but we see Chipmunk already really in. See the Rampage coming out.
Rampage does come out, however, Epoxy with the Russian Current here does find Dexter Morgan and Sexy Boy as in the backline. However, Proper finds Breezy, and it looks like Eclipse gonna clean this up, only using 2 ultimates.
Right. Really solid fight there. And that Juno ult being used kind of came back to hurt them a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. But you also got to give it up to Chipmunk, not dying there. As soon as you hit with the Rampage, you know, That could have been a disaster for Eclipse, but they stabilized quite nicely. Of course, Eclipse do lose the lead right now. Kratos up at 63 meters.
Right, 100%. Still holding on to this EMP. You gotta wonder when we're gonna decide to get this used.
Yeah, and losing one of your support, it could be a second or two, but here comes the orbital on the side of Eclipse, thinking it's able to turn around. However, you've lost your tank, you've already lost your Yang. So winning this fight is going to be a difficult ask. Chris finding 2 in this fight.
Yeah, and that should seal the deal. And we see Proxy going and just trying to get traded out. And that'll be another fight win for Kratos.
Yeah, absolutely. Kratos right now, you know, they're going to get this checkpoint unless Chipmunk attacks them. So they do get it. That does give them the forward spawn. But I'm looking at these ultimates right now. The clear thing I'm seeing is as soon as proper blades, use that EMP, shut those movements down, and shut it down before it can get any damage. However, you left your Juno behind. The EMP good for 3 here, does get 1, so both Junos off on the side of the board. Cool Chris proper finding their picks off here, and it looks like Eclipse gonna be packing back in their spawn as Kratos win that fight.
Right, it's like we were talking about, you gave proper so much time to build that blade back up. Now you had a different win condition with that EMP. And you just didn't quite find it.
Yeah, but talk about win condition. Chipmunk could step up forward quite a bit more because he does have that primal. You don't want to force it on something like just meaningless poke. You want to be inside, engage. Here comes a OC for Nexus. Finds 1. Looking to find another one. Finds 2 here. However, Epoxy shuts Nexus down before too much damage has been done.
However, there's just not quite enough health on the side of Chipmunk and the Proxy. Proxy even getting taken down there by Cool Chris, and that's just gonna have to be another quick reset.
Yeah, losing Breezy right here, kind of disastrous. And you know, this support line of the Break Juno, there's a reason it's run. It can sustain through quite a lot. However, if you do separate from each other, it's not gonna do it. But Chipmunk going deep gets punished. Was thinking maybe to pop the primal, however didn't get enough chance. Focus fire was good enough. However, Proxy fighting 2. Absolutely. However, the Queen shuts it down. Epoxy looking to get his team out of trouble here. The bot is still moving on the side of Eclipse. You still have that Juno Brig support line there. Don't have the DPS on the side of Eclipse. Here comes the Russian current. The Brig ult used does not shut it down. And Sexy Boy goes down. So right now it is just Juno.
Primal top.
Yeah, Primal is been forced out. Going into a small room here. Not too much to gain from that, but we do have to see some park right. Ooh, talking about which, Dexter Morgan finds 2, hits a 360, and then says, I'm out. Maybe gets a 3-piece here.
Looking to just play a little back, right? A really nice job getting this team the advantage, and then just content to sit there, push the cart, objective-based game.
Yeah, absolutely. But talking about which, you have Epoxy with the bleed and a blade here coming out. Good for 4 on the side of the EMP here. Finds Sexy Boy here. However, Nexus finds Epoxy before he gets too much damage can be done. However, you lost the Juno with that orbital. Of course, trade still coming in. Cool Chris finding No Link. Chipmunk finding Dexter Morgan. Here comes an OC by Nexus. The health pool are not in their favor, but they decide to put the foot to the gas. Nexus finding 2. Cool Chris finding Breezy. So while Kratos is still very much down in that fight, they decide they can come back from it, and it looks like they could.
Right, really solid chance. I think that could have been a fight winner if we just decided to commit with that Juno ult there.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about which, here comes the Juno ult. Bolt coming close. Chipmunk has to step forward. Here comes the blade and orbital. Right now, Epoxy swinging left, right, proper swinging left, right, trying to find any kills, trying to slam the door on Eclipse Gaming here. Everyone going down. It is just Epoxy and No Link left. Epoxy has to do miracle work to keep this alive, but it looks like Kratos is going to push the bot in, and Eclipse is going to go down.
And that's going to be a quick 3-0 from Kratos. really solid performance here on all these different maps with all these different compositions, right? They played the Cat Bastion, they played the JQ, they played the Ramattra comp with the Symmetra, doing solid work on all of them. Really showing their comfortability in this meta right now.
Yeah, especially in a meta that, has that openness so you can go to different tanks. Before we were only seeing the D.Va, now we're seeing, like you said, the Queen, the D.Va, the Ramatra. So, pretty good stuff by Kratos.
Right. Really solid job. But that is going to be this week's match. I think Eclipse just holding on to their ults a little too long, trying to maybe get a little too much value from them rather than just getting that fight winning pick.
Yeah, absolutely. If I was Eclipse, this is actually, you take your losses early in the season, you learn from them, and I think this is one of those you can relearn a lot from it.
Right, 100%. And this is something we can bounce back from for sure. If we were to look for MVP, I think in my mind, the number one player for Kratos has to be Nexus. Got so many picks. Those OCs were threats every time.
Oh, absolutely. Nexus, like on that new Queen Street, their health pools were basically none. I wouldn't have used that OC, but they do it anyways, and they find those kills that are important, and that was what opened the door for them to win that map.
Right, 100%. And still really solid performance from both teams. I think on the side of Eclipse, the player I was tending to look at most, maybe try and find something from, tended to be Eproxy, right? Really good sustain, found some pretty good picks right when it really mattered. But also Breezy finding some of those really good picks in that second map, really helping out with dealing with that Cat Bastion.
Yeah, absolutely. Both players, coming alive on separate maps. So when these two players start coming alive together at the same time, I think Eclipse has a deadly DPS duo in the making.
Right, 100%. I think just the timing for them is going to be a big thing, right? And it's still early in the season, right? It's just the first week, so it's plenty of time to figure it out and come back stronger.
Absolutely.
All right, but thank you everybody for watching the stream. I hope you all have a lovely day and a lovely weekend, and we'll catch you next time.